Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It is Friday, the 20th of December, Sunday, 4:30. Liverpool will play Tottenham away, won't they, in that stadium? It's a big week, another big game. And I know people didn't get that hooked up on Southampton, the Carabao, and we'll talk about the Carabao. We'll do the usual people. We'll talk about what Arne said, the answers to the questions he was given. We'll look back to the Carabao quarter against Southampton. We'll talk about any clues that we can take from that. We'll analyse Spurs threats, of which there are many. And I'll give, as ever, my predicted lineup, score, and scorer. So I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a pretty windswept Edinburgh. But it's only 5 days out till Christmas, so everyone's quite cheery. More importantly, it's only a couple of days, about 48 hours or so, isn't it, until Liverpool play that game. So we'll do the normal. We'll start with the questions Arne Slot was asked. We'll talk about the answers that he gave. And I'm almost going to say flip it round a little bit, because the first thing, it was asked quite near the end, actually, is that a lot of people want is the injury update. So what did he say about this? And he was talking specifically about there's only two players now, which is a positive, Konate and Bradley. He said they're still in the red zone. They don't train with us at the moment. He was then asking, okay, can you give a time scale on that? He said, I don't know, and it's difficult, as in what's realistic, as I thought Jota would be back a little bit earlier than he was. Sometimes the end stage of rehab takes a bit longer as they join in, but they're not always quite ready. Let's wait and see. We have a very good rehab, and if they come back, they are ready. We must not focus on 1 or 2 days. But we're in a decent position, aren't we? I mean, the fact we've only got 2 players out or unavailable is a positive. We'd love Ibu back, though, wouldn't we? We know how him and Van Dijk have been the best centre-halves in the league, and you'd love to get that pairing back together, especially at such a busy period. It's difficult to give a timescale on. A Slot won't give us one, as he said there. The only positive is, I don't know if anyone clocked it on Instagram yesterday. Ibu was there, wasn't he, in the gym, no knee brace on. So you hope, and I'm guessing here, just to be clear, but you hope maybe sometime before the end of the year we could see him in action. There's nothing around Konate Bradley, though. No one's really seen that. So we'll wait and see what comes out there, ladies and gents. But we'll do as we normally do. We'll talk about the questions Arne Slot was asked. We'll talk about the answers he gave. And again, got to say, 2 things. Number 1, there is an embargo, we've been told, to expect maybe a few things later on. No idea what that is, naturally. And number 2, he was in fine form as well. He gave a lot of, maybe I'm wrong on this, he just seemed in quite a jovial mood, and he wasn't reluctant to talk about Spurs at all, either the opponents, the game, many topics. So let's get into it. So the first thing he was asked was about the League Cup draw and how he felt about that. And what he said was, it's an interesting game, but every draw would have been interesting. There's 4 top teams still in the draw. It's not an easy one. With Tottenham and us, we're playing them Sunday, and now we'll play them in January again. So just in case anyone was kind of living under a rock at all, the Carabao Cup draw did take place last night after the Spurs United game. And as it says there, semi-finals 2 legs, across the week commencing the 6th of January and the second leg, 3rd of February. So it is us versus Spurs. First leg is at the Tottenham Stadium, as it says, the week commencing 6th of January, and then back to Anfield that week commencing 3rd of February. It's a funny one how you feel about that realistically, isn't it? Because some people I've seen say, that's a great draw, that's brilliant. Yeah, as Spurs, there'll be goals, probably be entertainment. To me, obviously, you're in the semis, you want to win it. You're in the business end of the competition, and, you know, Liverpool exists for trophies, don't we? We want pots on that wall, no 2 ways about it. I still mixed a bit because of what else we're chasing. You can call this greedy, you can call this what you want, to be honest, but I would almost like to see largely in the first leg, Endo, Morton, Elliott, those types of players. In the second leg, you'll then take account, you'll take stock. Is it worth maybe, and maybe they don't play it all, don't get me wrong, but do the big hitters come in for that second leg at Anfield in that week commencing the 3rd of Feb? We'll have to see. But yeah, Arne Slot seemed excited, and he gave quite a bit away on Ange as well. Because he was asked, how are you feeling about your position? At Chelsea, at one point, you were 9 points clear, but they could theoretically go ahead of you. This was interesting. I look at it like I said, after 19 games, because then everyone has played each other and the same opponents. Probably we all had a bit of the same luck and bad luck. Arsenal dropped points at the beginning of the season. They had a lot of red cards. They were unfortunately, in that sense, we were unfortunate to receive a red card and we dropped points as well. We still have Spurs away and Chelsea have already played there. Don't look at it where you are at the beginning of the season, as you said. The best place to look at the league table is halfway. Bit of Bon Jovi there, isn't he? Halfway there. Maybe that's it in slots thinking, who knows? But let's not lie. We've all been looking at the league table. It's just completely natural. But when we put it on the screen, it's still a thing of beauty, isn't it? 15 games gone for us, 36 points, 2 ahead of Chelsea, a game in hand. There is so much to like just taking a quick scan of that league table. Let's not pretend anything different. I know Arne Slot will say, oh, it's 19 games and we wait and see, etc., etc. But let's also be honest, that's not how we see it. That's not. We're looking at it all the time. And when I say it all the time, not incessantly, it's not every single second of the day, but you naturally keep an eye now, aren't you, on Chelsea's results? Don't lie. You would have kept an eye on City's. Do you still keep an eye on theirs? I bet no or less now. Arsenal, you still maybe have half a glance at. Who knows? But everyone keeps an eye on the table, no matter what Arne Slot says there. Also asked an interesting question about, is the job, because Andrews asked this, wasn't he, the manager's job harder than the PM? And he said, well, there's so many positive things I've said about him so far. If I say another thing, it'll make it seem like I'm his agent. I like the way he presents himself in the media, and I like the way he goes about his business. The decisions the Prime Minister has to make, though, are a bit more important than the ones we make. And I'm not going to go through every quote, but there's one later when he talks about Ange, almost I'll give you. Clearly, there's admiration in the style he sets up. Let me be honest on this. I think he's hoping Spurs set up exactly how they normally do against us. Now, come to that later as well. Don't go into your shell now. Let's see Spurs, real Spurs, as they've been this season, because that plays into Liverpool's hands. But you can't forget at the same time, a couple of seasons ago, after he'd won the Eredivisie with Feyenoord, Arne Slot was very close to being the Spurs manager. Very close. They offered it him. He considered it. He turned it down. So he's probably going to have, and he talked about their former players like Van der Vaart, Hoddle, Bale, etc. So he's going to know about Tottenham's history because he's obviously a smart, very methodical man. So it's natural that he's been praising in them in this press conference. 2 of our players, more importantly, they talked about. Harvey Elliott, he was asked first about, and him coming back and how useful that is. He said, every time a player comes back, it's a boost for the team. We've seen this so many times already, and you saw this in the Fulham game, the way Diogo came in, the way Harvey came in, and for Darwin, who got the assist as well. The second half of the season with games like the FA Cup, and we're still in the League Cup, it's important to have these players back, and Harvey is one of them. It's an interesting one for Harvey Elliott now. I think probably the aim for Harvey Elliott before his injury pre-season was, can I force my way in? Because obviously the season before, he'd started to get more minutes. At the end of the season, he found himself in the team. So it was probably, can I convince Slot I can be his number 10, or even push him maybe ahead of Szoboszlai in the rotation? That's pre-season. And then unfortunately, he breaks his foot, doesn't he? And it is what it is. Since then, he's natural, and this is not natural, it's not a criticism of the player. Harvey Elliott is going to be down the rankings, isn't he, people? He's got to build his fitness up. He's got to show he can get back to the levels of last season. I'm completely fine with that. I think when I look at a Liverpool side, because of, let's be the nature of what's asked from Slot of his midfielders, what's expected, especially you think about a huge pitch like Tottenham, that is not a game suited for Harvey Elliott. I think just unfortunately there's certain physical attributes he does not have, and it will count against him. What Harvey does have is he's what I think people would refer to as a game state player. Like Fulham, if you need to bring some guile, if you need to bring some flair, someone who can maybe make a cute pass, do something that can break down a low block. Harvey Elliott could be the man for that. He is a great option for the bench. So we will always have a value to the squad. I just think when I look at it more that there is an acceptance. Doesn't mean he's a bad player by any means. Every squad player is valuable. That's what he is, though. I'm struggling to see him as a starter. Yes, he can have contributions in those games, maybe against weaker opposition at home. He could start those. I'm not debating that at all. But I think there's different natures for different people in the squad. So, yeah, we'll see how the season unfolds for Harvey. But man of the match for me, I'd probably say with Endo. Probably Endo just shades it, being honest. So, very good performance and a goals. Hopefully, he kicks on from there. He's also asked about Federico Chiesa and how he felt. And he said, yeah, you can see he's now on the pitch. He's getting stronger and he's getting better. He's had to adapt for quite a long time. As I said, if you miss training sessions for so long and you go to a team when the intensity is so high as well, it can be difficult. He is getting stronger, but he's facing a lot of competition in the right wing position. And he had a good giggle at that. And well, he might, because it's Mo Salah, isn't it? And Chiesa's coming back. It was interesting. Some people were hypercritical, I'd say, of Chiesa and his performance the other night. I mean, for anything, it was the Carabao Cup. The second thing, it was more about fitness. And the third thing, you kind of saw what I kind of expected. We've heard he's had, as Slot put it, adapt to the intensity, which I thought was a bit of a code word for he's struggling with it a little bit to get up to the pace. It was pissing it down at Southampton. The wind was howling, you could see. He probably thought, Jesus, is this what English football was about? But it was a welcome away almost, wasn't it? And it'll be good for him in the long run. You saw that early on, he lost the ball quite a bit. You can't deny that. And he seemed to be struggling a bit with the physicality. However, you saw the good flashes. In fact, a few flashes of brilliance. Everyone likes a Megs, let's not pretend. But on another day, Taylor Harwood-Bells doesn't block that and he gets a goal. He was unlucky there with the rebound as well. So the tale we tell about Chiesa could be very different. I think the two elements are, though, physicality, intensity. That's going to take time. Moments of brilliance. He's got that in his locker. There's definitely something there. You can't deny that based on what you saw at Southampton. Ultimately, though, for Chiesa, he's kind of what I'd call it, the same baseball. He's going to be a relief pitcher for Mo Salah if everything goes to plan. A bit like Bradley is the rotational option for Trent. I think he's almost a relief pitcher. You'll be using Chiesa to more rest the established forwards, shall we say. If he does force his way in, absolutely brilliant. But 10 million quid, people, wasn't it? 10 million quid. We knew what we were getting. It's a bit of a punt in some circumstances. So let's not go overboard on anything around Chiesa. And the final bit about that game was also asked around the kids, McConnell, Morton, and how well they've done. He said, yeah, that's what's made this game so special for the club. We've seen that most of the clubs in the quarterfinals played their starters, apart from us or United. They only played a few. With us, you don't see the starters. You saw the academy players starting on the bench or coming in. That's what makes this club special. There's always room for academy players. At this club, if we miss a few players, we always take a look at the academy. A brilliant night for the academy. Let's not pretend. An absolutely brilliant night for the academy. No two ways about it. They'll be ecstatic. And for the likes of Jayden Dan's coming on, Tyler Morton, who found it difficult maybe at right back, but how good was he in the middle? Class, confidence on the ball. One player that really stood out for me, young Trey, by the way. Literally just strolling around that midfield. Literally, it was like that Louis Theroux meme, wasn't it? He's just walking around with his cock out. He was literally brilliant all around the pitch. No two ways about it. But for a 17-year-old, calm and composed. That was what was really impressive. No two ways about it. And he's not been mentioned too much, but he started in the midfield, then he went wide left, didn't he? He kind of alternated between the two, but so good. Yeah, that's everyone I took from the youngsters. Trey Ione, a real future star there. No two ways about it. He got a few more questions about his methods, his in-game management. And I like this question because is in-game management. And I'll come to what he said and my thoughts on it as well. He said, I don't think new things. I think it's constantly getting them aware of the same things and coming back to this every time. Sometimes you have a lot of attention on our attacking play and build up, and then you feel, we have work to do on our defense. Then after 3 or 4 weeks, it's the same thing. It's the same with my children. If you don't tell them the same things regularly, they tend to forget these things. Football changes, but you have to adapt. The main message is the same about repetition. And to be fair, I was thinking where I heard this, and it takes me back to what some of the Up Boys were saying about the pre-season. The biggest worry they had is patterns of play, repetition, that we might struggle to see that early doors, relying on individual brilliance. I know Bart said this quite intensely, that it'll be later in the season. And in a way, it's kind of not borne out in a positive way, don't get me wrong, but he's telling that's in his thinking. It is about repetition, styles of play. That's what we've got to really drum into these players. And like kids, they keep forgetting if you don't keep doing it. And I don't know if anyone clocked this. He mentioned Curtis Jones on another interview where he said he took too many touches and we tried to get him to move the ball quicker. And you're just starting to see, for me, little things like that. So I really liked what he was saying here as well. I really did. I do think his in-game management has been sensational. And I mean that. I think he's been the best in the Premier League, Arne Slot, at his in-game management. If he sees something not working, as he's proved, Quansah off, Konate on from the first day against Ipswich at half-time, he will change it. He will make constant adaptations in-game. There'll be no, let's wait, let's give it a few games, let's build. If something isn't working, he will take action. He will tweak things, like 15 minutes in the other night when Elliott moves back to midfield and only Trey Young moves wide. Like the adaptations, especially against Fulham, we saw multiple, didn't we? We saw Jota drop deeper into, as he said, a midfield role almost, and then parts into a 9. We saw Gravenberch at centre-back in mid. You can name numerous ones. He will make adaptations, which I think is absolutely brilliant and absolutely key for how well we've done this season. I genuinely mean that. I think he's been the best in the Premier League. No two ways about it this season. Fitness, though, was called upon, and keeping players fit, how he's managed to do that, his methods. So I'll rather than tell you what he said, this is the one I wanted to play you, in all honesty. So let's have a listen to what Arne Slot said about fitness, how he keeps players sharp.
Perhaps, how does the team's kind of overall fitness kind of play into that at a time when the schedule is so grueling and you're getting so much out of the players, often in extremely demanding situations, so whether it's down to 10 men or different circumstances or conditions or anything like that?
And the question is?
Just kind of whether the nick that the team is in at the moment is allowing you to get so much out of them at such a difficult, grueling time.
Yeah, but I think that has been like this for all the months that we've worked together. We've put a lot of effort in pre-season, although many of them were not there. We also made the choice to give them, in my opinion, quite a lot of days off. Maybe that's not the opinion of the players, but they had quite a lot of days off. And I still feel that we find the benefits of that at this moment, because I know in Holland some clubs only gave them 7 or 8 days off, and a few of these players got injured or as they say themselves, are very tired at the moment. Good thing for them, as they have a winter break now. But so I think we and again, I have to make compliments for the performance staff, because I fully trust them on that part, have managed that really well till now. But still a long way to go, a lot of games to be played. But if I'm correct, I think it's only 2 players in red at the moment. That means only 2 injuries left. And of course, a few of them are coming back from injuries. But I think we only missed 2 players on the training ground today, which is a positive thing.
Yeah, no two ways about it. It is a positive thing. And it's right. And people know these names, don't they now, like Ruben Peters and how he's managed it. It's right that Slot is giving a shout out to these people. I mean, genuinely, we've had a few recently, and I know people are going to pick up on that. But the injury record has been really good so far, touch wood, fingers crossed, and everything. And we've heard it that he is giving the players extra days off it's working. Look at the effect it's having on the likes of Salah, especially at his age. We know what happened last season. Also, we're hearing quite a lot, he's managing the minutes in training as well, as in how much, the intensity, the distance ran, that type of thing. So they're being very, very careful on how they manage things. And I think we're seeing the sort of benefits of that, the real dividends. It's important as well, because we don't see much rotation from Arne Slot, do we? That's important to note. So you've got to do everything you can, as he's talked about before, to keep the starters on the pitch. No two ways about it. John Murphy saying there, we need to buy a CM and a versatile centre-back this month. Otherwise, injuries and suspensions will yet again derail the Reds. I think, to be fair, John, everyone's in the same camp, mate. Everyone would love players to come in, or just a player, I think, would be a massive boost, especially if they'd be a sort of starter, so to speak, or someone who has a real impact on the squad. We'd all look for that. But we'll see what develops as things head towards January. The other part that he mentioned, he was asked about Trent. Don't know if anyone's seen his Men in Blazers interview, so I'll play you the clip, just a short bit from this, about Trent's legacy. And rather than me give you too much, let's listen to what he said on the Men in Blazers podcast.
Mention your mural, which is on the corner of Anfield Road, just by the stadium. It's got your words on it, Trent. I'm just a normal lad from Liverpool whose dream has just come true. I mean, Trent, you've won everything there is to win with your club. The Champions League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, pair of Carabaos. What are you dreaming about? What else would you like to accomplish? Other than beating Mo Salah at chess?
Of course, winning more trophies is a legacy, building a legacy. I think that's something that is important.
A legacy is what, Trent?
I think just being spoken about in the highest regards. I think, especially after you've finished. So I think in 10, 15 years, if I'm spoken about as one of the best right backs or the best right back, then that's what I'm playing for now, I think.
Interesting. So that's kind of the backdrop, the context that Arne Slot was asked about. And he said, have you seen the interview, what Trent said about his legacy? What are your thoughts on that? And Arne Slot said, I definitely like this in a player, and it's something that every player must have. If they don't have it, they don't play at this level. As long as they understand this and they need the team to play, then they can be special. You put the team first, and as a result of that, you can be special. All the top players have that they want to be special. Use that word a lot, as you can see, and be the best. And if you don't have it, then it's so hard. You probably see and think, what a life they have. This must be so easy. But they have to work to be ready every 3 days. And that's not a given to everyone to have that work and that discipline. Therefore, that's the mentality of a top player. Part of that is that you want to be the best player in your position in the world. Essentially, Arne Slot saying, have no problem with that. In fact, I'm happy to see he's talking about that the top players want to be the top players and will say they want to be the top players. Interesting. I mean, there's a few comments around it, isn't there? I've seen Jamie Carragher did his article for The Telegraph. He does a column there, doesn't he, where he talked about that Trent has a decision to make, around his legacy. And it's one where it's maybe worth a read, that if you do have the time. For me, when I hear Arne Slot said that, and Trent talks in this interview or this podcast, Men in Blazers, about the impact, the brilliance that Arne Slot has. If Trent Alexander-Arnold wants to maintain that legacy, the best course of action is to stay at Liverpool. Stay at a side where you're settled. Stay at a side where you're one of the main stars. Stay at a side where you're aware of how brilliant the head coach is, and you're aware of the impact he can have on your game. Stay at a side where, as you mentioned, it looks like you can still win the biggest prizes. Naturally, and we've heard this, there may be, and people will jump on this, I know, a test of FSG's ambition, all that to come, and I know people will jump on that, but let's just stay on Trent for a minute. Everything he said there, you won't be a star at Real. You won't necessarily be a starter. You will not be adapted to as you are maybe at Liverpool. Yeah, if all that is true, Trent, then for me, there's one course of action. I know he's not listed, don't get me wrong, but that is my thoughts on it. So yeah, we'll see what develops there. He was also asked about by Mo Stewart. Shout out to Mo Stewart because he always asks a thoughtful, well thought out, well researched question. And it was around sort of the strikers with Jota back, Núñez and Diaz being a false nine, how he sees that Arne Slot. Arne Slot was quite, in a good way, direct with this. He said, well, let's start with the positives. It was a week ago, people were saying Darwin doesn't get his numbers, and now in this week, he has a goal and an assist. Then you said, and most correctly, you said Jota you said most, sorry, let me correct that. You said most of that correctly. However, you said Jota as a 9 scored a goal, but actually he came as a midfield and it was Darwin as the 9 for us at that moment. Lucho can for sure play in that position. He's played a few times for us, but not that many. After the Leverkusen game, we've seen he's played more times as a winger than a 9, but he can play there and we do have options, and Lucho is definitely one of them. I do think Luis Diaz is one of them, but I think with Jota and Darwin available, he is solidly third of 3. I do think that it's quite clear that Diogo Jota, I don't think it's any debate really, is there? He's our first choice number 9 for Arne Slot when he's fit. I think it is clear that Núñez, and we don't need to get into his long-term future again, can have an impact in the short term. No two ways about it. And I like seeing Darwin get a goal and get an assist. I think it just keeps it, a bit of confidence in him, and there's still that threat. Because let's just be clear, we are likely going to need him for the rest of the season. And no forward is going out in January, are they? So we're going to need them all firing throughout the rest of the season. So if Darwin's confidence can keep up, he tends to be a streaky player, you feel, as well. Sometimes Jota can be the same. You just want them to dovetail that way. And yeah, Luis Diaz maybe as the false 9, but unless there's major injuries, I am struggling to see it too much this season, but we'll see what unfolds. And then the final question from the press conference, and shout out to David Lynch on this. He said, you have had a few slow starts. How you're feeling about that, or what you'll do to counteract it. And he actually said, yeah, I felt the same. It doesn't help that one of our players in home games gets a knock, like Fulham. Now, there's a rule the player has to be out for 30 seconds. I don't know however long it is. I don't know. But against City and Madrid, we had quite a good start. And I look back at the Fulham game. The first 10 minutes was really good. And then unfortunately for us, 2 times, the linesman raised his flag when it wasn't offside, when you talk about momentum. It's not a big thing, but it doesn't help to create it. We had a shot from Curtis as well, where it was a corner and the ref gave a goal kick. If you look at goals, though, it doesn't help that we conceded one and naturally we took a red card after 15 minutes. If I look at the other minutes in the other games, we were on top, but for the reasons I gave, it wasn't the same against City or Real, put it that way. I think a few of us have clocked it had been a bit of a slower start, shall we say, in these recent games. Newcastle especially, Fulham, and yeah, maybe that's a factor. You forget almost the things that he said. The linesman did raise his flag twice against Fulham and players were onside. There was a lot of stoppages. Fulham were seriously looking to stop it, even in the first half, weren't they, when we were 10 and it was us on top still. I wouldn't say controlling it, but on top. So there is that as well. But there is the element Liverpool almost seem to, and Arne Slot, almost seem to analyse the opposition, don't they, in the first half? And then in the second half, that's where, they sort of make the adaptations or tweaks or react to maybe the weaknesses they've seen, if that's the right phrase. I don't know. But will it change? Let's just hope Sunday is not a slow start, put it that way. So we'll have a quick look back on the clues for Southampton. We've talked about Harvey Elliott being a game state. We've talked about Federico Chiesa as a relief pitcher. The only other big clue I think we got from that, and I hope Arne Slot looks at this, Endo can have an impact. Now, not as a starter, very much as a squad player, no two ways about it, but almost I would say Endo, like, again, a relief pitcher in baseball, he can give Gravenberch a bit of a rest. He does have attributes. I mean, might be the fifth choice centre half now as well for what you've seen. Did okay there, inverted into midfield, a bit crazy that way. Don't think we'll see that in bigger games, don't get me wrong. He can have an impact. He's got a great attitude. And when he's come in so far this season, yes, it's been minimal, but no, he's not let anyone down. There's the balance of that with Endo. And I just think for maybe 20 minutes here and there, he could really relieve Gravenberch and his legs. And the other thing is, you think back to certain games, maybe he could have been really useful against Newcastle, especially with that aerial ability as well. I mean, don't forget, he's beating that 6'8" Southampton guy in the air, wasn't he, at times? Just that type of thing, that physicality, can be really useful. So that was one of the big clues, I think. I'm hoping we maybe see a bit more of him just to rest certain players at times, if nothing else. And then the other big clues is what I liked. Trent and Gomez, I didn't like when I saw that in the lineup. It looks like it's borne out. But apart from that, none of the big hitters touched the lineup. I did like that. There's no two ways about it. So overall, we're in the Carabao semis. Let's go for it now. But it's the league game, innit? And it's a huge game. It does feel massive. And I get why people will say this is huge. You want to get back to winning ways after a couple of draws. Yes, there's context. Yes, there's circumstances. But anything less than 3 points doesn't feel good in this. But at the same time as I'm saying that, Spurs do carry threats. I mean, when you look at their side, Kulusevski's in great form, isn't he? He played well the other night. He seems to be on a bit of a hot streak at the moment. James Maddison is their top scorer in the league. A little bit stat padded with that Southampton result, don't get me wrong, but, you know, he's a threat. All the threats are attacking, aren't they, when you look at them? And again, it's funny this. I had a few friends say, Son's having a great season. A lot of Spurs fans saying you can see he's on the wane, and he did get a few goals against Southampton. He only had 3 league goals, which, you know, pretty much the same as Nunes, wasn't it? As people have their opinion on him, let's say. But Redden Johnson is good for a goal recently as well. So all their threats tend to be their attacking element. Archie Gray is likely to be centre-back, and Dragusin is likely to be centre-back against us. I think when you talk about the threats, Tottenham are such an attacking team. You'd hate to be a defender in Tottenham's team, would you? You know you're not going to keep a clean sheet. They're so attacking, so they will provide threats. It would be very impressive, very surprising if we kept a clean sheet, I think, in this fixture. That would be important to say. But it's not an easy game, but teams get results there. Fulham got results. Ipswich won at this stadium. That's important to say. And you just hope as well, when you look at this game, and there's almost something that's a bit different. Yes, they battered Southampton, but look, they shipped 4 to Tottenham, as we know, a couple of those penalties. They do just make wild decisions. And this is the same team that can beat City away 4-0, but also, as we say, ship 4 at home against Chelsea, lose to Ipswich at home. So it's almost what version of Spurs are going to turn up. And then you think, even though it's not a Premier League game, they put a lot of energy into that United Carabao game the other night, 4-3. It was alive, which I wanted right until the end of the game. They will score goals. They will ship goals, Spurs, that way. So that's the beauty of almost playing them a little bit, isn't it? You just don't know what's going to happen, but you are hopeful. We've got more rest in the legs, and especially all there, pretty much they played a first team, didn't they, against United on Thursday. So are they a bit tired? It's a huge pitch. The other things as well, when we talk about their threats to target, Fraser Forster, massive goalkeeper, actually can make some good saves, can't fucking kick the ball though, can he? That is somewhere to target. You want to see, you know, especially people pressing Spurs' back line, because Ange will get them playing out from the back come hell or high water. As he admitted, doesn't give a stuff what pundits think. That is going to be his style. Which brings it to us, ladies and gents, and what do I think the lineup, score and scorers are? I don't think the lineup's that difficult. You look at who was left out. Alisson was left out. Van Dijk, Robbo was suspended. So I think that makes up the back line with Joe Gomez and Trent at right back. Field. Gravenberg is obviously going to come back in. I think Maka, who played about 60 minutes an hour, I think he will start in this one again. I think you want that, his intelligence and smartness in there, no two ways about it. And I think it will be Szoboszlai. I think it will be Szoboszlai because it is a huge pitch, this Tottenham Stadium. Massive, isn't it? There's no two ways about it. And pressing Fraser Forster of their back line will be crucial. So I'm expecting Szoboszlai to be told, empty the tank, and then Curtis can take it late on. That is what I think will happen. The forward line, interesting. Gakpo played it in the Carabao, so I think it'll be Diaz on the left. Mo Salah's obviously on the right. In the middle, I think Diogo Jota. He's got a great record. He likes a goal against these, doesn't he? He's got it in the, when we won that 3-1 in COVID times, the 2-2, he got the header. He likes a goal at this stadium. He likes a goal against Tottenham. So, as does Mo. Mo likes a goal against everyone. So, I do think you'll see Jota start in the middle. That is my prediction. My final prediction, goals. I'm struggling to see us keeping a clean sheet. We don't, and any team would be this way because he's just so good. We don't quite look the same without Konate, doesn't he? You forget how many, a multitude of sins that he covers. So I do think we'll ship and, we'll score because of that. So I think there'll be goals in this. I'm going 3-2. A 3-2 away victory for us. I also think I'd be astonished if Mo Salah isn't on the score sheet. He must be rested, licking his lips at this. And if you think of the last time he had that week's rest, Southampton, where he was the difference, wasn't he? And he got the double. So balls out, actually. I'm going to go 3-2, a Mo Salah double. Maybe that's heart over head, but that is the prediction I'm giving. Be interested to see what your predictions are. Throw them in, ladies and gents. There's plenty coming up on Anfield Index. There's Daily Red as ever with Dave. There'll be the normal shows tomorrow, and then the weekend with the games where you'll get raw gags, everything, the G&G show, everything like that, ladies and gents. Jack will be doing his watch along as normal, so keep your eyes peeled. But on Friday, the 20th of December, just over 48 hours from that Spurs game, that was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.